Okay, let's talk about today what we're talking. This class has to do with what violations. It's got to do with assessments. It's got to do with HOAs. It's got to do with mandatory clauses. It's got to do with almost anything that a legal contract needs to be cleared up with, okay? Before you get a listing agreement, while you're making up an offer, before you accept an offer, and you know, even in the negotiations while you're still negotiating it. There are so many, you know, different steps to this that we need to know about. And it all has to do with HOAs. It's got to do with HOAs. And what is an HOA? An HOA is any development that's got governing bodies. Governing bodies could be, you know, single-family homes. And you guys know that there are some single-family homes that they're not gated, but they still have an HOA. You'll go into it and you go, oh my God, it's that, you know, there's no clubhouse, there's no, you know, tennis courts, basketball courts, and things like that. And you'll think that there's no HOA there. There's no governing bodies. There are government laws, bylaws, and condo docs and stuff like that. So you always have to ask your clients, is there an HOA? Now, there's some HOAs that, for example, I've seen them in a lot of communities. They're only $35, you know, a month, and some I've seen only like $150 a year. You know, most of those don't require a certificate of approval before your client buys or rents, before the move-in. Okay, and most of them don't even have, you know, the bylaws. What covers under that small little fee per month of $35 or $125 per year, it's just basically the common area, just the common area. The lights that they might have, the private lights that they might have, also just the grass area, the green area, okay? Those are the easiest ones, so that's the easy part of this class. Now we're gonna get into like the fun part of this class, you know, where I've seen a lot of listings. I don't know if you guys have seen them. Beautiful homes, you know, too good to be true, all right? If you see it and it's too good to be true, there's something behind it. There's something truly behind it. These gorgeous homes, gorgeous communities, and the homes are going for $150,000, $225,000 homes. You guys need to look at those. Those are golf course communities. There are mandatory fees that are due every single year. Now they range from, you know, there's different memberships. These are different memberships that they've got. So they range, like some of them you'll have no access to what's called the golf course, but you'll only have access to the actual clubhouse, to the restaurant. Yeah, exactly. Those could be about $25,000 a year, but if you want access to the actual golf course and everything else, it could be up to $65,000 to $195,000 a year. Now, you would probably think, and I've had this question asked to me so many times, those places should be ghost towns. You're wrong. If you go there to these communities, and you will see that there are people having a great time. They're playing tennis, they're playing racquetball, not racquetball, they're playing tennis, they're playing, you know, any of the, you know, amenities that they're offering. They even have salons, they've got everything in there. So, and it's full, a lot of people could afford it. A lot of corporations will buy on there too. They need it as a tax write-off because they'll meet there. They'll have, you know, representatives there while they're here in the state of Florida using the home. So there are yes, they're full. But you can actually buy those homes very, very inexpensively. I've seen them as low as under $100,000 because they've been on the market for 200 days on the market or 180 days or something like that. And you can actually make a good offer on it. But then again, you really need to know about you know, the HOA fees that are due on a monthly basis, because not only do you have that mandatory membership per year, then you've got, for example, you have to use their amenities there, the restaurants and so forth, and you have to spend, I don't know, $1,400 a year, $1,200 a year in their restaurants. But guys, if you guys have gone to their restaurants, they're super nice. I mean, their bars and restaurants and pool area. Are you kidding me? I don't want to go out of there. I don't want to. I want to stay inside that community. That's that fantastic. Okay, so $1,200 or $1,400 a year is like nothing, especially for the ones that don't cook, right? That you go out every night. But you need to look at them, and you still have an HOA fee that's due every single year. Now, when you see one of those homes, and it's just too good to be true, look towards the middle of the MLS report, depending on what you've got, Matrix or Flex. I'm talking about Flex here, and it's going to tell you the mandatory membership, you know, and there's no way around that one. There's no around that. Would I, you know, take a listing like that? Oh, heck yeah. Yeah, they sell. They sell, and those communities are full, and they're great communities, especially for the ones that can afford it, right? I mean, they have so much stuff in there. Sometimes they got 2 to 3 restaurants, 2 pools, 2 bars. Oh my God, I'm in heaven in there. What do I need to go out of there? I'm right in heaven. I don't need to go out of there for anything at all. I've got everything I need in there, you know. But do ask, and then when you guys are going to get a listing, especially not only on a community like that, because those communities are upgrading on a yearly basis. They're doing improvements, not just to the homes, but the surrounding community of everything. So there are assessments. And these assessments not only will go just to a single family home, but they'll go to just as well to a condo. They might be redoing the windows or the balconies, or they might be doing some upgrades to it. And I've seen assessments go between, you know, $7,500, $10,000 to $75,000 per unit. So do find out. Your homeowner, whoever you're talking to on this listing, your homeowner cannot tell you that they don't know about the assessments. Anytime you go into an HOA, if you're talking to a homeowner who just doesn't really come in a lot, doesn't check their mails, doesn't check their emails, because they send out emails as well too, but a lot of them don't check their local email for that community. You might want to go over there into the management office and talk to them and ask them, hey, listen, are there any assessments coming up? Are there, you know, and a lot of times there are assessments, because we are upgrading all the time. They're upgrading all the time. Assessments are negotiable. Assessments are totally negotiable. For example, let's just use a $10,000 assessment on, doesn't matter if it's a condo or if it's a home, single family home, townhouse, villa, it doesn't matter. And say, you know, they've already paid about $5,000 on this assessment. Well, who owes the other $5,000? Does the new buyer owe it, or does the seller owe the $5,000? Okay, it's still negotiable. It depends on what you put on the assets contract, which I'll show you guys in just a couple of minutes, which box you check on the assets contract. Okay, you had a question? George.
I heard that some condos require that the owner pay off the assessment prior to closing.
Precisely. Some condos do require it, and others are totally negotiable. In many cases, we've had where, you know, our realtors, for example, they're making a good commission on it, because these are condos on the water, you know, on the ocean, and they've got a good sales ticket on it, so they're making a really good commission. So not to inconvenience the seller or the buyer, I've seen realtors actually, you know, pay for these assessments, all right? In other cases, I've seen where the seller will pay for it. In other cases, the buyer wants that property, and they're not gonna lose it for $5,000. And I've seen them only sometimes $2,500. Why are you gonna lose the sale for $2,500? You know, pay it out of your commission if neither party wants to pay. You will check off, and I'll show you guys here where to check off who's responsible for it, who's responsible to pay it. But again, I've had so many cases. I've had so many cases where the sellers will tell you, "Oh, I didn't know." I mean, it's impossible. You know, the management company, the HOA, the board will not come and assess and put in a building unless it's been completely approved by the community, by the homeowners that live there. And that takes a year, sometimes it's even over 2 years to take place. Sometimes it could take as quickly as 7-8 months. Something as simple as a small little development, you know, where it's just painting the outside, which could be $700, you know, just per villas. It could be $700 per unit. Something as inexpensive as that. Or just changing some of the landscaping on it. Okay, something like that could be really quickly. It's between 7 to 8, 9 months. That could be approved really quickly. But others will take years, if not a year. And they send out so many notices, so many notifications, and so many emails that a homeowner, I mean, it surprises me every time that I hear someone say, I didn't know about that. Well, I mean, a realtor has told me that, their seller has told me that. I mean, have you not checked your mail? Have you not checked your email? I mean, it's impossible. Have you not talked to your neighbor? You know, because the neighbors are the first ones that come in and go, do you know that they're going to assess us $7,500? Are you happy with that? Neighbors will talk. So let's say you're that antisocial individual that you don't talk with your neighbors, you're never there, you don't check your emails. It's kind of hard for me to believe, all right? But I'll tell you guys what, it happens a lot. So what happens in this case? Who is the one that is going to be responsible for how you write it up in the assets contract? If we come here can we go into the assets contract at the end real quick? And we come here to line 185. If I can get to it. I think it's 185, right here. Actually, it's 194. 194. See how there's a little star next to every single line? There is a number. Okay, Florida Realtors puts a star next to every single line or every single paragraph or something that they think is important. So look at this, 194 has a star, and 196 also has a little star on it. So they think it's important. They think that this should be checked off. So if we're representing a seller, it just depends on what your seller wants to do. It just depends. So we've got A or B right here. We've got A and we've got B. Now, B is responsible to pay off everything. But what if they checked it off incorrectly? And possibly the seller did not understand that they are totally responsible for paying off all the assessments that are due. You know, and say there's $5,000 still left on it. Well, I would think us as realtors, as professionals, we are going to believe in them that they really didn't know. But here's the thing, we should know these things. We should know these things. So at the time of closing, now we don't have a confrontation with who? The listing agent, sorry, the buyer's agent. And who? Their buyer. Because now you guys know that you've got yourself a little bit of a headache. You really do. You've got a headache going on. Because the buyer is going to say, well, we checked off, B, where the seller's responsible, and the seller's going to say, well, I don't have the $5,000, and I can't afford to give you the $5,000 out of my net proceeds. So there are many ways that we can negotiate this. I see all parties get involved, where realtors get involved. Each one contributes a little portion of their commission. A seller might, put a little part more. The buyer will put their part in, and all four parties will try to come together so this file will close. We'll take it for granted, and we'll believe that honestly the seller didn't know. And there are cases where the seller really doesn't know. So that's completely negotiable. But what if the seller says, I'm not going to pay for it? And I've seen some realtors, honestly, I'm not giving up a single part of my commission. Well, you're not going to get a single part of your commission either. You're not going to get any commission. Because if this isn't closed, how much commission do you really think you're going to get? Zero. Okay? So this is going to have to go now into what? Litigation. Because the only way that you can enforce this contract is how? Litigation. You're going to have to take them to court. It's not worth it. To me, it's not worth it. To me, it's worth finding a way how to, come together, everybody peacefully and professionally, and let's see how we can do it. Because we're going to spend more on litigating this file instead of just coming together. So it's just a matter of talking. And this is really important right there, guys, because this does quite happen. Here's another question when you're getting a listing that you've got to ask. Capital contribution. So in every HOA, or condo, sometimes they do require what's called a capital contribution. So what's going to happen there is they're going to require anywhere from like, I don't know, $1,500 to $5,000. I've seen it up to $60,000. Now, the great thing about some of the capital contribution is completely non-refundable, and others are refundable when you go to sell it, because what's going to happen is the new buyer is going to have to pay for the new capital contribution of $5,000, and they're going to refund it back to you. So you guys need to find out these things, and when you go to talk to your seller, in many cases they truly don't know. In many cases, I said, I didn't say all of them. In some cases, they scratch that word out, many. In some cases, because this doesn't happen a lot. Should the realtor be asking these important questions? Without a doubt. Listen, there's no questions in my mind that you should be asking these questions. Why? Because when it comes down to the time of closing, guess what you're going to have in your hands? A headache. And I don't like supporting these, these medications over the counter for Advils and Tylenol and all that. So, yeah. Yeah, you have a question?
I never had to deal with a capital contribution. Is that a separate item on the budget rather than reserves? Is it like a reserve?
It's like a reserve, yeah.
Can be used for only specific things?
Precisely. Exactly. Or improvements,
If there's a sudden water leak in the line coming down from the tower or something, then they would use.
Yeah. Well, they use it for many different it varies. It varies. Every community's got like what it's for, but there are many communities that have that capital contribution. So we need to ask. It's a one-time fee, and sometimes, as I mentioned already, it's refundable. So when you go to sell the property, the seller goes to sell the property, they're going to be able to get those funds back. They're going to be able, but the new buyer is going to pay for it. So what a horrible surprise to a new buyer coming in. Okay, so you've got your good faith estimate, right? And you already know if you're financing it. If not, if you're buying it cash, you still know what are the funds that you need to bring to closing. And in many cases, I've seen where, it's been not very inexpensive. These have been villas or townhouses where buyers are working with limited capital, very limited capital. They don't have much money in their account left after they purchase the property, and as reserves. So can you imagine a surprise of $5,000 to you? Oh, by the way, well, let me see how I can explain this. How would you explain this to your client? I know you guys have already come to me and talked to me about 30 times, because you're going to have to go present it to your client. And there's no other way, it's by telling them the truth. But should you be addressing this matter at the time of closing or prior, a few days prior to closing? Heck no. You should have known this from the beginning. You should have known this. You got to ask these questions. And what happens if your seller says to you, well, I really don't know? What are you going to do then? You're going to go to the management company. You're going to go to, and ask them.
Would that be in the bylaws or something?
Absolutely. They're going to tell you right there instantly. They're going to tell you absolutely. We have capital contributions. We've got this or that. We got this assessment. Any assessments coming up, by the way? You want to ask that too. Any assessments coming up, by the way? Anytime soon, because you don't want to hit your new buyer with a brand new, assessment of $25,000 that's going to be due in 2 months. I've seen that as well too. both listing agent and buyer agents have not done their due diligence. So the guys, these are not for nothing, but these are very important points here. You know, one thing that I, thrive upon is that whenever I go to do a closing, that everything comes out smoothly. And that's why so many people, I get so many referrals back to me, because, and when I go to do any of my estimates, whether it's to a seller or whether it's to a buyer, I kind of like using the high side, because no one loves, bad surprises. They love good surprises. Oh, by the way, remember you needed $21,000 to close? We estimated that. You're going to come in with $19,000. That's a great surprise. Can you imagine coming in? Remember we told you it was $19,000 between the mortgage broker and us? Well, you need $24,000. What do you think the buyer's going to do? He's not going to be, oh, don't worry about it, Ismael. Absolutely. You want to go out to lunch today, Ismael? No. He's going to want to, can I see your broker or kill me or kill you? I don't know. He's not going to be happy. He's not going to kill anyone, but that's me being sarcastic. But it's not going to be happy. So, why don't we do something? Let's prevent these issues. Let's prevent them. Do they happen? Heck yeah. They happen very, very, very.
When the listing is placed, the realtor, the seller realtor is not have to put this kind of information. I know that we need to do due diligence,
but as I mentioned to you, some of these listing agents won't do that. Okay. They won't do their due diligence, and they won't put it up. So who's really going to be wasting their time here, and who does not want to waste their time? You, the buyer's agent. Yes. So why don't you do your due diligence and find out, and find out. It's going to be in the bylaws anyway. You guys are going to go into a listing and look up at the attachments, and which we're going to talk about in just a couple of minutes, and we're going to see the bylaws in there, the rules and regulations, and the budget for last year. We're going to talk about that in a minute. It should be there. It should be there. But again, let's say before you submit the offer, usually realtors either text or they call the listing agent. Hey, I'm going to submit an offer. But before I submit an offer, can I ask you a couple questions? Ask those questions. And then if you see that the realtor says to you, I really don't know, what is that telling you right there? You need to know. You need to find out, okay? You need to find out. So, I recommend highly. I recommend highly that you look into that. I recommend highly.
So who is the responsibility for the buyer, for the seller, or for the buyer agent?
Both.
Both.
Yeah, listing agents should be disclosing everything accurately. And the buyer's agent should be looking into everything completely.
Okay.
Completely. And that's what this class is about. Mm-hmm. We want to prevent the surprises. We want to prevent the surprises. And the funny thing is that this happens quite a bit. So let's let it not happen to one of you guys this year. Because we're here to talk about it. Now you know how to address it. Now you know whether you represent a buyer, whether you represent a seller. What are the questions to ask? Talking about listings, we're going to continue with listings there. Talking about listings. When you're going to go get these listings, find out how many people are on title. You can look it up and see it, okay? And sometimes the other significant other is not on there. It doesn't mean that they don't have to sign off. Yes, they do. Because it could be an investment property. It could be solely in that other individual's name, and we need to make sure that there is a significant other, or if there's not, and if there is, we want to get his or her signature on it. And in many cases, there are divorces. So I've seen to where, you know, I've heard that, you know, their attorney, let's say to one of the individuals is saying that they can list it by them without the other person's signature. You can't. You can't. Not unless you got a judge. It's already finalized. Their divorce is finalized. You have a judge's order stating who's going to be responsible for selling it. Okay, but you still need both signatures. But I've seen many cases where, you know, realtors. Thank God, realtors call me to ask questions. You know, you guys know you're welcome to call me 7 days a week. If I don't answer because I'm doing a class like this or I'm in a meeting, just send me a text. Send me a text. And it's better to look into it before getting involved with it or uploading it in there because it's going to cause a problem. So we do need that other spouse's signature on there, even if they're not on title. Even if they're not on title, we need their spouse, and especially if they're going through a divorce. There's not a title company, there's not a real estate attorney that's going to close on this file, knowing that there's a significant other, and their signature wasn't on there. But now you've cost a lot of great deal because, you know, whoever the buyer is and the seller, they're looking to move. The buyer is already preparing to move, probably giving notification to their tenant or selling another home, and they're looking forward to close on this property. So let's prevent these headaches. So make sure if there's two individuals and it's because of a divorce, okay, or a separation, maybe they're not getting divorced, it's a separation, we still need both signatures. That's one that happens, you know, ever so often I hear about, okay? So we want to make sure that that is addressed, and that if the divorce is finalized, we want to make sure the title company sees a copy of that divorce. What if when someone passes away and they did it without a living will? They did it without a living will. Well, you need to talk to the title agent, our title company, before taking the listing, and making sure that maybe the death certificate will be sufficient. We need a copy of it. So we need to talk to the title agent or attorney to make sure that that property and title is transferable. So that's another very important, because this does happen yearly as well too. But we want to make sure we address these points before, you know, going into anything, going to the next step, you know. I want to continue with listings. So another really important thing is when you guys are getting a listing, right, we want to find out if there are any permits open. This happens quite a bit. Guys, I've seen permits open for 30 years back, and the home has been sold 4 or 5 times or 3 times, right, with government loans. It's just that those title companies missed it. The title companies missed it. But now this new title agency realized that title has been transferred, you know, not legally. It's been transferred, and we have a clouded title. So now we have an issue where we can't sell, where we really can't sell that property. It can't be transferred over. So we need to find out to make sure that title is clear, and there are no permits. Or any open permits. Again, they're 20 years old. I've seen them up to 30 years old, open permits. All right, violations and things like that. So do check into that. That is another major issue. It doesn't happen a lot, but it does happen. It does happen quite a bit. So people think that, hey, it's not going to happen to me. It does end up happening. So what do? Talk to the title agency, let them do the research, you know, and to make sure that you know, the title is transferable. So these questions you must ask up front, you know. Besides getting a seller's property disclosure, Guys know that you need to get a seller's property disclosure. What if like some investors don't want to give you a seller's property disclosure? We need that seller's property disclosure signed by both parties, by the seller and the buyer. But what if an investor doesn't want to give it to you? Then we need to talk to our buyer, and we need to ask our buyer, are you willing to continue with this transaction and this purchase without the seller's property disclosure, because they're not going to provide one. You guys got that? We need to ask our buyer, are they willing to continue with this purchase? And we need to get something in text and writing or something signed where they're going to say, yes, I'm willing to continue, you know? So let it be their choice. Well, it has to be their choice. No other way around it, okay? There's no other way around it. So in many cases, still sticking with the listings here, what if the client, that potential seller doesn't have the current bylaws? Every year there are bylaws at the end of the year. There are going to be brand new bylaws, which are also called rules and regulations. And if there's condo docs, then we need the condo docs as well too, so we can provide them at closing. So what if they don't have the bylaws, they don't have the budget, they don't have the condo docs, correct?
Condo docs.
Yes. There's a difference between the condo docs and the bylaws. Okay, the condo docs is when the development was built, correct? And they're pretty thick. They're about an inch or a little more, or half an inch thick. Okay, we need to provide those to the actual potential buyers. But the bylaws, we have 3 days to get it to them. The bylaws, which are also known as what? The rules and regulations. The current one with the budget. You know, if they're financed, so hold on, let's stick with that before we go into financing. If they don't have it, you as the listing agent, what are you going to do? Well, you need to go to the HOA or the management company and ask for it. Now, in most cases, some cases, better said, they're going to probably charge a fee. So you want to see if your seller's gonna, if your seller's gonna pay for it. The fees aren't really that much. Now, they're not that much. So, you have the right to pay for it with your check. You have proof, and you have the right to collect it at closing. Okay, it was paid out at closing. It's a POC, so you guys have the right to collect it at the time of closing. But you want to make sure you get it. You make sure you get it. Now, in some cases, you can actually get it from where? From a prior listing or another active listing. It's the same bylaws. It's the same ones for the same community, right? So you want to look in that community and see if another realtor does have them, because their seller might have had it, So something like that, or a closed property. I mean, not closed 2 years ago, because the bylaws have changed. Yeah, currently, within that same year. You can find it there. Before you go into contract, let's talk about this one. If you have a buyer, before you go into contract, and your client is purchasing a condo or something like that, most condos now are pretty up to date. They've got the financials are fine, the reserves are fine, the budget is fine. There is a tenant occupancy compared to a owner occupancy. If there's too many tenants in that community, in that development, then sometimes these lenders will not finance it, because there's more tenants than there are residents, homeowners that live there. You guys need to find all that out, and your lender can also go online and find out if that building is acceptable to be doing a government loan like an FHA or a conventional loan. Okay, so you can go in and ask before you write up your contract, have your lender look into it and make sure that condo is okay for a conventional loan. I don't think there's any FHA loans. There aren't any FHA loans on condos. Not that I know of. I mean, there could be some. Yeah, none. None. No. Conventional, yes. You know, but then there's non-warrantable condo loans too. So talk to your lender. Talk to your lender, but do check into it before going into contract, because that's going to cost you what? It's going to cost your client time and money, because there's application fees and so forth. So let's talk about the actual application fees. I would recommend, because you know there are fees, and they're mostly, almost every single time, they're non-refundable, the application fees, right? So I would get the application, I would have it completely filled out, I'd have everything ready, but I would not submit it in until we are done with the inspection period. So if we have a 5-day inspection period or a 7-day inspection period, right? And both buyers and sellers are in agreements that they're going to continue on with this purchase, then let's say that we've completed everything by the 5th or the 6th day on the inspection period, that's the day that you want to turn in the application with the fees. Go immediately, as soon as they approve it, and you want to go with your client and make sure they go to the right place. Because see, sometimes your clients, they don't know the importance of how important it is to get this application submitted on time for like a 30-day closing. So please, guys, make sure that you will go with them. Say, listen, can I meet you 10 in the morning, and we'll get a cup of coffee afterwards, and we'll go in and drop it off. I would do that if I was selling real estate. I would do it. I would definitely do it. I would go with my client. Then I would invite him to a cup of coffee or breakfast or something like that, you know. But I would go with them. Don't wait on them submitting it in. Like I've seen a lot of realtors do this. Okay, well, you need to drop it off at this and this address. They don't know the importance of that it needs to be there in a timely manner. They don't know the importance. So they'll go, what, 2 weeks later, and you haven't followed up on it? You haven't called them up the next day or that afternoon? Hey, good afternoon. Did you go drop it off? You know, realtors will think that maybe they already went and did it. No, don't do that. Make sure, text them like 2 hours later. So what time are you planning on going over there today? Oh, 1 o'clock. Oh, okay, great. You know, by 3 o'clock, good afternoon. Hey, did you drop that off? No, I didn't get time. Oh, what happened? Well, I'm going to go after work. What time do you get off of work? You know, I get off at 6. They're closed. Can you go at 9 o'clock in the morning? Would you like me to go for you and drop it off? A lot of realtors won't do that. You guys don't be one of those realtors. Okay, I will pick it up. I'll go and drop it off. Not me. I'm talking about you guys, if I were you. Okay, and drop it off. Why? Because sometimes there's 2 different agencies that must approve these homeowners or these potential new homeowners. There's 2 different agencies, and it's got to go through 2 different departments to get a final certificate of approval. By the way, we also, talking about certificate of approvals, we need those. So they're either going to give you an actual certificate of approval right there to your clients, correct? Or they're going to email you. Sometimes they won't give you a certificate of approval, but they'll email and say, okay, they're approved. Make sure that email is inside of your closing documents and the certificate of approval list too. Or let's say that they don't send an email. I'm going to text you. Hey, is the clients approved, that they're okay? Yes, they're completely approved. Perfect. So a text, a copy of a text, a copy of an email, or the certificate of approval needs to go in there. And if there is no approval required, then I'm going to make sure I get that from the HOA. Okay, I'm going to make sure I get that. Guys, you know that every text and every email is something that you must have inside your folders when you submit a file in? Print them all out. You guys come into our office. We don't charge you for paper. So, but protect your transaction, that you did your job correctly. Print out every email, print out every text. I know it's a lot of hard work, you know. I know it is. I know it's like, oh my God, now I got to print out this gazillion emails and texts. Make sure you do. Talking about, you know, listings again and receiving offers. What if you guys on a property got, like, I don't know, 3, 4 offers prior to the one that your seller accepted. So those 3 offers don't need to be inside your, they don't need to be inside your closed package that you turn in, right? Do they, or they do not? They do, guaranteed, absolutely. Every single offer needs to be in there, must be in there. I'm gonna rephrase that word needs, and let me use another word, must be in there, must be in there. Every single offer must be in there.
Why?
Why? Because it's part of the paperwork in that file, and the law requires it. The law requires it that it's in there, and you know, a lot of stuff can happen down the road, whether it's a week later after closing, 2 weeks later, 2 months later, a year later, 2 years later. How do you like them apples?
2 years.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. If you like, I'm not going to go into complete details on that there, but if you like to write a note down, a little note there, and ask me that question right after class. Why?
2 years after.
Yes.
Successful closing.
After a successful closing. Just ask me why. It's just because if not, we'll be here a very long class. And if you got time and you're interested in knowing why, I'll be very happy to sit here and explain it to you.
I've got an appraisal meeting way down in Boynton, South Palm at 1:30.
What time is it? Do we have time?
1:30 today.
No, but what time is it now?
12:38.
It's all right, we have a little bit of time. All right, we'll try to get through this class quickly so we can have a nice lunch and I can answer your question. Because it is an important question. I really mean that.
Well, I asked that because we had accepted an offer on Condo, and it says active under contract because but I've shown it after but did not accept offers.
Okay, well, it's different. I mean, any submitted offer, you know.
I wasn't accepting though.
Yeah, but okay, then take it off that we're not accept. Don't put it active under contract. Just put it under contract. So there'll be no other, you know, unless that's what your seller wants. It depends on what the seller wants.
There's a
You know, depends on what the seller wants.
About accepting, I have to check that.
Yeah, well, it's in your listing agreement. It's whatever the listing agreement, and it's whatever your seller wants. But we'll talk about that. I'll try to get through this class quickly so you can answer your question before you go to your appraisal. Oh, I love that question, and it's an important question, and I think that everybody here deserves the right answer. Okay, so going now into, for example, a buyer's steps. Well, we did go through. We jumped around between the seller and buyer. That you guys have to get these bylaws, rules, and regulations. And how do we get it? Well, very simple. If they don't have it, if the listing agent doesn't have it, check again one of the pending listings, other active listings, or ones that closed in the recent time. And if not, get in the car and go to the management company and go get it. Go get it. And make sure we do this within how many days, guys? Super freaking important this here. On a resale? 3 days. All right? 3 days. Now, just to top this one off, what if nobody has it? There weren't many sales in that community. Very small community. There weren't any sales. You can't get a hold of anybody, and there is no pending, active, or sold. And you've gone there 2 or 3 times, knocked on the door. Oh, they don't answer the phones. The management companies do not. Because some of these individuals, they do it for free. They're presidents and things like that. They actually do it for free. And sometimes they're not even here in the state. And you can't get a hold of them. Your 3 days are going to be up really soon. What are you going to do then? Well, you need to talk to your client.
Have a drink.
I would love that. Well, after you talk to your client, if he or she drinks, then we'll have a drink. After we talk to the client and they've agreed to it, not before. God, you just reminded me of something real quick here. Sorry, my mind, I love it. And some of these other countries where we're at, they allow alcohol to be served while the negotiations part is going. That's beyond me. So in our office that we've got overseas, I do not allow alcohol. Even though the laws are different over there, I still don't allow alcohol. But the locals, they want it. Hey, our clients are used to a cup of wine or a cup of champagne. I go, no, I don't care. Even though the laws are different over there, but here we can't. Here we cannot. So go to your client and make sure that you get this in writing as well too. Sir, I can't get it anywhere. No one's got it. This is it's a very dormant community. Do you want to move forward with the purchase of this home without these bylaws or let's talk to some of the neighbors. Let's ask them the question. Let's ask them about, the parking. Let's ask them let's say we have a list. Let's ask all these questions to the neighbors, right?
Yeah.
Because we can't get it. We can't get anything. I've had communities where you can't get it. Where you can't get anything. So let's talk to the neighbors. They pretty much know what's going on. And then your client has to agree to it. Yes, I'll continue forward with the purchase of this home without these bylaws. Okay? Right. So age restrictions again. Age restrictions are really important. It's extremely important with age restrictions. Find out, if from your buyers, if anyone's coming in to live with them after they've already moved in, and they're already approved. Now, find out with these management companies and HOA, how many days will they allow someone to stay there without they classifying them as a permanent residence? Whether it's 3 months, 2 months, 4 months. So we need to find that out, because if the client just needs to register and they're going to be a temporary resident there, then, and if it's below whatever whatever their rules are, then we're okay. But if it's going to go beyond that, then we're going to need to get this new member approved by the HOA. That's really important. Why? Because that could bring you a problem. You never told me that. Here's another thing that you never told me that either. There's so many things that they can come back and go, you never told me that. And why are they telling you that you never told me that? Why? Because you're the realtor. You're the professional here that needs to know these things. All right? So here's another thing. No leasing during the first year. How important is that one? Because when someone's buying it, they want to lease it out, but they can't lease it out within the first 12 months. Boy, are they going to be a little bit upset. Okay? How about no leasing never? The building does not allow, and let me tell you guys something here. A lot of these buildings are going in that direction. It affects their growth and value, and it affects the financing there too. Because remember what I told you earlier in the class, more tenants than homeowners? There's got to be more homeowners than tenants. Tenants have to be the minority in there. Now we have a very, a financeable condo. As long as everything else is fine, the financials and so forth are fine, okay? But more tenants than homeowners, that's a condo that's gonna have to go into maybe a non-warrantable condo and so forth, okay? You guys need to ask that, because it's a bad surprise when the homeowner or the purchaser is going there. They might be buying 1 or 2 condos in that same community development, and you're thinking, oh my God, I've got 2 commissions coming up. No, you don't, because you forgot to ask these questions. Because once the HOA tells the client, sir, we don't accept investors here. Sorry, we don't accept investors. Now, there's some communities that will, but it has to be like an LLC or an incorporated. So that's, we need to find out all these items. Will you accept an investor, not as an individual, but an LLC or a corporation? These are questions that you guys have to ask. There's a lot of little questions that we don't know about. Here's one that I get a lot. I mean a lot. Not just from realtors in our office, but realtors from other office, Airbnb. Let's talk about that one. Holy jeez. Now that's a really a popular trending sale right there. A lot of buyers for Airbnb. So there were tons of buyers from Dade County all the way up here to Palm Beach County and Stewart and so forth. Ton of them. What's happened that you can't get Airbnb on the water anymore, or or anywhere around there? Because it hurts the development. Too many tenants. And homeowners, me as a homeowner, I don't want my next door neighbor to have, a revolving door of people coming in and out. Parties and stuff like that. So what have these developments done? They've eliminated Airbnbs. Eliminated them totally. So make sure you ask the question, do you guys, who are you going to ask the question to? The listing agent? Maybe he or she doesn't know it. Who are you going to ask the question to? The management company or the HOA, no? Right? Yes. All right? That's who you're going to ask the question to. Before you do what? Before you go into contract. Before you go into contract. We need to find out, do they allow Airbnbs in there? And again, the majority of the condos and these developments will not allow Airbnbs. So we're going to go out of there into other communities. We're doing a lot of sales right now on Airbnb here at Partnership Realty. Where are we going to? Towards the Orlando area, in between Orlando to Tampa, to Daytona, to that whole area. Now, the Orlando area, because, we've got all the theme parks and there's just so much going on in Orlando, Airbnb is like super popular over there. Super popular. I mean, it might come a time that they'll stop Airbnbs as well there too. But right now, they're not. So your investors are probably overseas investors, or they're probably domestic investors. Where do they care they get their returns from? They don't care if it's in their hometown or if it's 2 hours away, as long as they're getting what? A return on their money. A return. Daytona right now. Oh my God, fantastic, guys. Give you guys little tips here, and the ones that are watching too, realtors. Tampa, phenomenal. Okay, all that whole area. Around the Sanibel, around that whole area of, don't you love that area? Cape Coral, all that area around there. Anytime, anywhere there's an attraction. So here in Palm Beach County, you need to look at where that's gonna attract someone to want to come and stay there because they want to go to visit. Our downtown is beautiful. I love our downtown, seriously. I really do. Whether we go there during the daytime or at nighttime. And then we're 10 minutes away from the water. Anywhere on the water. Anywhere we go here in Palm Beach County, from the south end all the way to the north end, we've got nothing but fun places to be. Nothing but fun places to be. So we want to be near there, and it could be a single family home. It could be a single family home. It's going to give you a return on your money. So those are little tips right there. And this can go for any in any county, not just here. So Airbnb, I know you guys are going to be dealing, or you are dealing with Airbnb. Make sure you ask those questions, because afterwards, your client's not going to be happy, because they depended on who? You, to give them the right and proper information. So again, if you have a buyer, make sure you look into the age restrictions. Make sure you look into the parking spaces. Make sure you look into the pets that we spoke about in the last class. Yeah, parking spaces. We also spoke about what's a service dog compared to oh my God, I'm losing it today here. A service dog into emotional support. Pet, better said. Those are all items that you need to look into, and so forth. That could be on a rental, or it could be on a sale. And how many cars are involved and stuff, and things like that. Today was a pretty easy class because, going over, basically assessments, violations, bylaws and things like that. It's really not that hard once you know the basics of it. And all you need to know is the basics. Because if you're going to get into, which I don't recommend it, I do not recommend it. But if you're going to get into, helping people buy foreclosures, now this is an investment class, helping people buy foreclosures and eliminating $300,000, $400,000, $200,000 of open violations open permits, and so forth, that is a total nother class within itself that I'll be glad to do if you guys want to hold a class like that. I'll be glad to do it. But that's more in investments. But not only in investments, I mean, there are homes right now. There are homes right now that are being sold. Again, there was a home being sold. There was a home that was sold here a couple of weeks ago that had some violations and permits open for 25 years. We need to know what to do. So at that point, since we can't get into that because we're going to go into a whole new topic right here. You guys just call me, ask me, I'll help you with it. Between our title agency, ourselves, myself, we'll get a handle. And our contractors that we work with, we have the contractors, we've got the architects, we've got the engineers, we've got everybody that you need. We've got everybody that you need to help you with these. And we're not afraid to purchase a home with $300,000 in violations. We're not afraid of it at all. It could get handled as long as, our buyer didn't cause it. Our buyer wants to cure it. They didn't cause it. They're buying a home that already inherited and had that. Okay, so, we want to cure it, not, if anything. But I want to thank you. You guys have any questions? Don't leave. I want to get to you. I'm rushing for her. Any questions that you guys might have or anything like that? If not, I want to end this class. I want to thank you guys for watching, the ones that are watching here, the ones that are here. Thank you again, and we'll have another class coming up really soon.
Thank you.
Okay.